Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 66, a very special, lovey episode of the Lunch Bunch, because we're all going to sit around the table and hug each other, because you know what? Valentine's Day is coming up. So we're going to talk about finding love on social media. Is it possible? Is it something that is happening more and more? I just read recently a study where 7% of married couples, out of 18,000 people that they surveyed, 7% of them met on social media and then proceeded to get married. So it's possible, isn't it? Maybe they treat them like an HR firm. You know, you can check out your potential spouse online through their Facebook footprint or what they've done on Twitter, all that kind of stuff. So you kind of screen them ahead of time. So is it spontaneity gone if you do that? We're going to examine some of those questions, and we're going to ask you, did you meet your spouse, your significant other on social media? And we want to hear all the gory details, all right? Because like this is lunchtime, we want gossip, we have some juicy stuff to talk about. So first question I'm going to ask the panel is, did any of you meet your significant other on social media? And if so, which one? And are you still together? Okay, who wants to go first? We're going to go with BL. Okay.
I did not meet my significant other on social media, but I certainly have met a lot of friends, including you guys.
Oh, there you go. See, love is in the air, and it's not just about romantic love. It's love. All we need is love.
Absolutely. And I can tell you stories about that when you get ready to hear them.
Oh, can't wait. Okay. And I didn't get any chocolates. Did anybody get chocolates today?
No, but it's not Valentine's Day yet.
Well, it's our Valentine's Day.
Oh.
So I'm going to go, Jessica. Have you heard anybody or know anybody that's met online and
Yes, one of my high school friends met her now husband. This was actually before social media, online, and then they met in real life. Found out that they still really like each other and got married. My story is not as cool. My husband fixed my computer. That was the first time we met. He fixed my computer. That's as close as I get to social media world. But that was also pre-social media.
Ah, well, that's close. It's digital, right? I mean, there's a digital aspect to that. We won't get too far into that. I just want to say hi to Christine Brown. Hi, Christine. I'm glad you could finally make it. Bowen, sorry, Christine Bowen. I just saw.
Hi, Christine. Go CLB.
So, Randy, any stories you want to share about people meeting on social media?
Well, I did not meet my significant other online. We met in real life first, and we engage online often, but we didn't meet that way. But yeah, I know several people that have met on the social network. Tom Webster and his wife Tamison met online that I've been informed about. A friend of ours that was once in the steam theme realm with you and I, Ray, was Mally Hart. She met her husband online. Yeah, those stories happen, and they're both of those couples are still together and flourishing. So I think that there's plenty of those stories, and each of us wouldn't have to dig very far in our friend base to find some kind of hookup. So yeah, I think that happens, much like BL shared. We've all engaged and met each other online, and we've got relationships that are pretty deep. They're not just casual, occasionally responding to a post. I mean, we meet weekly and talk and share, in the green room and after green room, we share other things in our lives that aren't broadcast and stuff like that. So we've got a pretty tight network of love here. So, yeah.
Just bring up Danny Brown had wrote in a while ago on the event page that he met his wife of 10 years ago this year on social media. It was a community forum for the band Dashboard Confessional, who I did not know until he introduced me to them. Very cool. Anyway, so so she saw it and they started a relationship, and there you go. 10 years later, they're still happily married. That is very cool. And a shout out to Deborah Rock. Hi, Deborah. Thanks for coming by. Glad you could make it. Scotty, any stories?
Well, in my dreams maybe, but no, I've not met my significant other online. So I do have friends who are in my son's carpool who met on one of the dating services, and that was a very wonderful conversation we had around a dinner table about how that happened and kind of helped make me a believer. And in an hour and 39 minutes, this might be a good time to bring this up. Let me screen share this. Maggie and Christopher met online, and they're getting married. So they want to possibly have the marriage broadcast live, but in the meantime, they have a pre-marriage hangout on there, and we'll post that in the event stream.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I saw that in the on the Chef Dennis's show, right? That you did. Yeah, they were there, was chatting back and forth.
Yes.
I want to bring this up. Basically, one of the reasons why an article which I'm going to share as my takeout later, why people meet up online, and it's the new singles are bypassing the problematic first contact with the help of social networking sites. By the time they actually meet, the hard work is done. The only thing to discover is if they actually like each other. So I guess, as I was saying earlier, it's sort of like your HR office checking you out and researching you before they bring you in for an interview. So I guess on social media you can learn a lot about the person that you may be interested in, even before you start chatting or before you start linking up on other sites. What do you think about that?
I think that's true, but I'm gonna speak personally, and I'm a traditionalist. I'm in my 50s. I like to hold on to some of those old things and some of that discovery that you just mentioned, which is very nice to have today. It also takes something away from building the relationship as I knew as a 17-year-old or a 21-year-old man learning to have a relationship with somebody. So I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that as a traditionalist, and maybe it's just a generational thing, I think you lose some of that intimacy building in the digital process.
Anybody want to add to that? I think that's an interesting point.
I love it. Eye contact. It only takes 1/5 of a second to fall in love with somebody when you actually hold their eye contact. And so if we don't have that and we're not making that eye contact as we're building the relationship up, even if it's over the computer, it's not quite the same thing as in person. There is it's a different type of intimacy. Maybe it's there, but maybe it's taking on a new form.
Well, that's exactly how I look at it. It's just a different type of intimacy, and anytime that things are that big a change in society, it's hard for people who are very traditional to get hold of that. And you hear people saying this, that kids don't form real relationships and they're not real friendships, but I think they are. And the demonstration of caring and kindness that I've seen from people I've met online, none of whom I'm in an intimate relationship with, but the kind of caring and this real friendship. I mean, people have done things for me that just strangers don't do.
I agree totally with what BL said, and I don't mean to dismiss it. I'm just talking about my observation and what I see personally. Scotty mentioned dating sites and things like that. Well, I kind of threw out a lure to my network, and two people that I know. One girl that I graduated high school said that she met her husband through eHarmony, which is an online dating service. Said that her daughter told her it was the best $39 she'd ever spent. 5 years marriage. I think that's what she left. Another friend of mine, an adult friend of mine I met a few years ago in North Georgia, told me that he got married 2 or 3 years back. He met his wife through a dating service. I know that we're talking about social networks, but I kind of throw that online dating aspect that has evolved and everything into that same realm a little bit. I don't really. I mean, I think you go in, you put a bio, and it kind of links you up and finds similarities. That's kind of a fast track of what we're talking about on social media. So I kind of put it in the same realm a little bit. I think that you're right, BL. It has changed. I'm not saying anything negative. I've got testimonies of people saying, "Hey, I met the love of my life. It works great," and I think that's wonderful.
I'm going to bring up this comment from Deborah. If people
I will add, I've made some connections online as we've talked about before, and met them in real life, and they're genuine, true relationships. I mean, they're just, like BL said earlier in the green room, but I won't repeat what she said, but the only difference I recognize is, are they taller or shorter than I had them in my mind picture?
They're always
Well, that
short.
speaks to a point I want to bring up in a second. I just want to highlight this from Deborah. And if people are honest when they meet online, they learn to love each other for who they are, not for what they look like. And when they finally do meet, they have already formed an emotional bond. I think that's very prescient. That's a good point, Deborah. Thank you. And this brings up the issue of trust. I was listening to, what was I listening to? Oh, it was Meet the Press. Being the good neighbor I am, I listen to Meet the Press every Sunday. And they're talking about a trust deficit, and it's not just our generation, and I say our generation, people like over 50, but it's even worse among people in their 20s and 30s. I think it's down to like almost single digits who trust the government, who trust authority, and I'm thinking online. When you're taking this online, did they bring that same cynicism online so that people are again, maybe researching, and they lack that spontaneity that you were talking about earlier, Randy, and in the fact that it's kind of fun to meet someone just by chance, and the dating sites are very well, they're pointed. They're there for a reason. They're there to find a date. Whereas social media, you're kind of doing other things and you kind of bump into each other and then you start a conversation. I think it's kind of more like real life.
You admire something
I think
somebody
a lot
said,
of people
but
get online. Excuse me, Bill. Go ahead.
I want to disagree with Deborah. I think that when you meet people, the first thing you see is what people look like, and I think people judge immediately by what people look like at any time that you're dealing with pictures before people. So I disagree with that. I think you can indeed learn to love each other and create trust and friendship and so on, but the part about it's not based on what you look like, yes it is.
Yeah, I tend to agree with BL on that, and I do want to step back a minute when Ray referenced all of us. He was leaving you out of that equation, Jessica. You do understand you're not in that 50. So
you're a token millennial.
Oh, you guys are so sweet. But let's go to the cynicism piece, right? The cynicism piece. I think it goes back to what Randy was saying about being a traditionalist, and I actually think that's something that is missing in our culture today. The people that I meet online, even when I meet them in real life, I don't know if I would go to some retreat in the woods and do those exercises where I would fall back and expect them to catch me. I have to actually be around them in person. I have to see and feel their energy, and I have to get to know them in an actual physical sense in terms of proximity and conversation, and are we going to hook arms and skip down the street and all that other good stuff before I let anybody into my little circle of trust. And so I think that's a good thing to acknowledge.
Well, maybe we and we all acknowledge that we have not met a significant other online, but maybe we're skipping ahead and making assumptions. But say Danny Brown, our friend Danny Brown, met his wife online. Maybe once they connected, they had the traditional stuff. They just some of that detail work or an opportunity, instead of going to the local community college or your school or out to a restaurant and bumping into somebody and meeting them that way. You just met them online.
Right.
I wonder if there are any long-distance relationships that have evolved from an online relationship.
I'm sure of that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I know somebody who is in New York and started a relationship with somebody in Australia who she's been married to for 10 years. And,
that's long distance.
That's pretty long distance, and they're still happily married. But it was an impetuous decision to move to Australia. I think some of this is involving impetuous decisions when people meet in this way, but I do not agree that dating sites and social media are the same thing. When you go on a dating site, you're looking for a romantic relationship with somebody, and you start with what they look like, how old they are, where they're from, blah blah blah. In social media, I have friends of all ages. I mean, I think it's a different mindset, not quite as judgmental.
Possibly. I got a good friend of mine who lives in the Midwest, and he got caught in a scam online. He met a girl online, and And Missy is making a point saying that she finds that people fake their photos trying to whatever. And I think you see that a lot. People put a photo of a Photoshop photo of themselves, or maybe a photo that's 20 years old or something, as their moniker up there. But I met this guy, and he got in this scam, this girl, to the point where he had not even met the girl in person and had already announced a wedding. Right? They were getting married. I mean, this girl was so good at crafting a story and presenting her persona, and she had a network of friends that operated in that. And it became a big scam. I mean, it made national news, but he got caught in that, and embarrassingly so. I had a long conversation with him about how that happened. He never met the girl, and so I think when you say social media, people not getting on there for relationships, that's an extreme with a criminal element in it. But I think people do go on Facebook looking to hook up with people all the time. I think they're out there trolling and looking for that.
Well, on Google Plus, I at least once a day get somebody that's following me, and when I go and look at their profile, there's nothing about them, and it's a guy, and what he's looking for is relationships. And Google Plus is not the place to do that. And one guy said to me, "Well, this is my first time online dating," and I'm like, "That isn't not an online dating site."
How come I never get guys checking my profile out?
I don't know, Ray. I get them every day. I'll send you some.
So we're going to talk. I want to ask, because this goes back to and what Missy said as well about the whole authenticity, and we've talked about this in our shows about personas and all that. We can easily put up something false online, right? So I'm going to bring up something here. It's a quote from another article that I'll share. Is that the problem with falling in love with someone's two-dimensional Facebook profile is you never know what lies beyond that sparkling smile in front of the Taj Mahal. After all, his photos might just be the most exciting thing about him. And why is he always traveling by himself? But and you see these on Facebook, right? Everybody loves to share their photos of vacations and the selfie. You don't know whether that selfie was done 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And they create these stories in these restaurants they go to. It's easy to do that. So, is there, and I'm a very optimistic person and very romantic, but I'm just saying there are people out there who are not genuine. So is there a pitfall to having relationships on through social media? Scott?
Absolutely.
But, are you holding social media to a higher standard than real life?
Some people do.
Good point, though. Scotty's saying that you could run into those same pitfalls in real life, right, Scotty?
Yeah. So there are a couple of people, even on Google Plus. I saw their profile images, and I made certain assumptions about them, and then they changed their profile images, and that blew my entire attitude about them, or I got to know them a little bit better. One went south, and one went north. So.
Okay, you're going to have to fill me in a little bit on that whole thing.
But I have a neighbor who, we see each other in the street all the time. We both have dogs, and I got a request to hook on, to connect on LinkedIn, and he has like his high school picture on there. It's like, okay, that's what you want to do.
That's amazing. See, on LinkedIn of all places, that's just ridiculous. Oh, anyway.
Totally, but then that made me wonder how many other people have those.
But that could be also the person's personality. You got to look at it like that. Some people just don't, they just don't give a rip. It's just their personality. They don't really care about, maybe they're not using LinkedIn as what it's intended to be or what we know it to be. They're just, they're just going through life that way. And so I mean, some people aren't there. And back to Scotty's point. I mean, it doesn't take long. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, hey, you can run down to your department store, buy a nice looking suit for a little bit of money, dress yourself up, hide your car around the corner, and walk in a restaurant and act like you're the wealthiest guy in the world in front of some new person that you just met. And if you kind of got some savviness about it, you can pull that off for a while.
But it's a hell of a lot more work doing it in real life than it is on social media.
Well, yeah, but the point of this conversation is you meet them online and then you meet them in real life and you carry that on. So,
but to Jessica's point about skepticism, I don't know that skepticism is the word that I would use. I would just say common sense and caution. You can't take people at face value pretty much anywhere. You know, you kind of have to get a sense and trust your judgment, but you know, you got to do a little research.
And I think there's a difference between the common sense piece and just immediately no trust, but meeting people exactly where they're at, because that is something that I do. I'm like, oh, hi, okay, this is who you're going to show me. Now I'm going to show this to you. And most people who aren't what they seem around me, they end up not hanging around because I show them the piece that they showed me. And if they change their mind, we all change our mind. I change my mind, right? If I don't tell people and they don't help and they don't bring me along, I'm still holding a place that they've said that they don't want to, that they aren't anymore, or really weren't, or decided to change their mind. And I think it's up to us. We have a different type of communication that has to occur when we're working online, because there's so much to read between the lines. And we could be applying our own story to all of this stuff online and to what we see between conversations online that make somebody not who they are, not because they're not who they are, but because of how we see them.
I'm sorry, Randy, do you want to say something first?
Well, I was going to say, reading through the comments that Christine, Missy, and Deborah are making on the event page, I think we're all on the same page. None of us are anti-relationship online. We're very pro for that, but we got to step back, and nothing takes the place of that in real life and exploration of in real life. So I think we're all kind of coming from it from the same angle, and I'm sure there's a age distribution there among the people listening and on this panel.
Do you think Facebook, because I think I'll use Facebook because I think it's very special in the niche it has, because we, and I don't mean me necessarily, but a lot of us have mutual friends, and then we have on friends of friends, and so it is a bit like high school. So when you're starting to check each other out and, you know, share things, you're kind of doing it inside a community, and your friends know that you're doing that, and it's a bit more, it's kind of ironic, it's kind of public as well as being private. Do you think there's any kind of that kind of dynamic going on in Facebook in terms of dating? Especially, I'm thinking more probably younger people. You know, peer pressure, who's going out with who. Oh, I just noticed that, you know.
Ray, you might be asking the wrong crowd.
Yeah, probably you're right.
I can tell you this. This is what we see, we hear, we get related to on television programs and things like that. The younger demographic, I'm talking about the teens or maybe the earlier 20s, they treat these programs a lot different than, and I'm probably talking about people that are not in relationships. Maybe they got multiple relationships or whatever, but they tend to treat these things a little different than we do. Some of them throw caution to the wind, not because they're throwing caution to the wind, just because of they're immature and naive about certain things, I believe. Not, you know, it's just their age. So yeah, I think that if you stepped into your local high school, that you would see peer pressure online happening within relationships, be it on Facebook or Snapchat or whatever. Those things are happening.
And one of the things I wanted to bring up during this program is that, you know, there's a skill set that young kids have, and I would worry, for example, if my son didn't know how to text properly. You know, how about that? Because kids text back and forth all the time now, and so that is a skill set that they have. And if he didn't have a smartphone, for example, and didn't have access to that, would he be at a competitive disadvantage from all of his peers in terms of gaining and, you know, growing relationships? I think he would be.
That's a good point. I will confess that I was standing in a local Mexican restaurant the other day, and I was just watching this girl standing in front of me who was probably about 17, and I watched her text to her friend, and it was so fast. She was texting so fast and doing things on a smartphone that I did not know you could do while you're texting. She was using magnifying glass, bringing in pictures and dropping them in. I stood there for about 5 minutes. I wasn't reading what she was doing. I was just watching her mechanics. And she went away. I told my wife, I said, and it was only like she was texting with one finger in a way. So that's a skill set that they've developed that I'll never have.
It floors me how they do that. It just absolutely floors me. It took me, I don't know how many years when Zach was first in high school. I remember he was always SMSing. He was always texting, and I hated it because it took me so long to text something back. I'd rather just call him, right? It was always just, please, just call me. Now it's a bit better, I mean, with autofill, I get the first couple of letters out, and then it fills the rest. But you're right. There are things in there that I know absolutely, it's like Greek, I have no idea what they're saying or how they get there,
But,
I
whole
love what James is saying.
conversations. They have whole conversations. I would rather just talk to you.
But
They don't do that. They don't do the phone.
But the thing is, we're talking about social media, but there's all those other things, like Scott said, like there's texting. People meet on text and start relationships that way. There's the dating apps. There's Snapchats. There's the visual stuff. It's just a different world. I am so far, I feel like so far away from that. The whole way people and start relationships and all that is so different now. You have so many opportunities, and I'm wondering if that in and itself is a challenge.
Well,
not to them, not to those that are growing up in that realm. To us, it certainly is. To us, it's foreign, and I acknowledge. That's why I said I'm not against it at all. I mean, I'm sure I was doing stuff when I was 17. My parents, I know my hair was down to my waist. My parents couldn't stand that, but they didn't really have a choice in it. So,
I'm going to bring up Christine's point, because I think that's a good point. She says, just as a side note, online is real life. It just happens to be online. I believe reframing our mindset to accept this truth will help solidify in our mindset that our online activity and that of others is real. That's an interesting. That's a good point. I mean, it really is.
I like that, Christine. And James, there was a quote up that Vivek had of James, and he was saying you can meet people online, and I agree. I have two amazing friends that I met in some it wasn't a bulletin board. It was some sort of a forum, and I have been to more countries and spent more time traveling with them than I have my own husband. And two guys, older. Kids my age, but they're amazing, and we get along fabulously. And so when we have a chance to all get in the same city, their wives and me and Ryan, we do, and it doesn't happen very often anymore. But boy, I have to tell you, that whole concept of having friendships and having them last and being lifelong friends, it is my real life. That's how I talk to these guys.
Bring up Elena's point there, Ray.
Okay. Elena, do you think that who shows the real face they are? No, sorry. Do you think that who shows the real face they are not fake?
Oh, versus like a cat or a tree?
Well, no. They're saying just because somebody puts up their real profile picture,
doesn't mean they're who they say they are.
Right. Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I always, you have to dig beyond that profile shot, and that's a good place to, I think, end the major part of the conversation. There's so much more to discuss about this, but I do feel old. I have to say, this conversation left me feeling, all right. So for the good old days. So we're going to do the takeouts. And I'm just going to share mine at the top, because they're just two links that I brought up. Those quotes that I brought up earlier are from those. And one was, can you really find love on social media? And I'll share that link. And the other one was, is social media ruining our love life? So we have two sides of that coin that I'll be sharing with you. So BL.
Well, this is not a romance, but I fell in love with this guy the minute I saw the picture, and that is the Boston Yeti. And this is a guy who dresses up in a Yeti suit and goes around and digs people's cars out, because, as you know, Boston is under, many feet of snow, and they're getting more today and more tomorrow and more the day after. I mean, they're like in Snowmageddon. And he said, I just do it because we needed to lighten up here, and I like helping people. And so, he's they've been talking about him on the Today Show, they've been talking about him all over, there's articles about him, and he doesn't want his name or anything like that. He just wants to keep doing it. I love him.
That's great. He's going to get lots of chocolate.
To marry me, I'm available.
And he can shovel your walk for the rest of your life. There you go. Jessica.
Okay, so in the spirit of lightheartedness and in the spirit of Valentine's Day, meet Cupid. He dances, and he has a song, and he actually has a book. So I'll put a link to the book, and I'll put you'll have to find your own actual Cupid. I don't know where to find him, but I did find him a YouTube video. Here we go. Shuffle, Cupid, Okay, anyway, you can get the
We're going
idea,
we're
right?
going
This
viral
is Carter's.
Well,
And
everybody,
so,
just so you know, you missed Jess doing the Cupid Shuffle in the green room. So.
Yeah, Jessica doing
That's true.
Cupid stuff.
Okay.
So Cupid is this great story about this little pig who he can't shoot arrows. It is not his strength. He is a Cupid, and he's supposed to be able to shoot arrows, but every arrow he shoots hit trees and walls and cars and not people. Then they found this school that nobody was dancing, and their arrows could not get through the brick walls to help these kids lighten up and dance. Well, Cupid waltzed right in there and started dancing and made everybody have a great time because they were like, yeah, we can do this. We can have some fun. And everybody smiled, and he learned that you don't need to have arrows to make somebody's day.
There you go. Disarmament.
That's my takeaway.
Okay, Randy, try to top that.
Okay. Well, I don't know that I'm going to dance, but I'm going to bring some. I'm going to bring some music into it. But this is back to BL and I's slight disagreement. Is I think maybe some of these dating sites are social, and there's an upside to every one of them. You mentioned, Ray, you feeling old. Well, certainly there's a seniors dating site. I guess I'm going to throw us into the senior category, or at least the AARP category, right? But there's farmersonly.com. We've all seen the ads out there. But in preparing for having something and thinking along those lines, I found one that if I were going to use a dating site, this would probably be the one that I would use because I like to meet new people who share interests that I have, and I like to chat and meet people that are close by, and I'm always into music. So mine is the music social network, and it's called tastebuds.co or something like that. Anyway, I'll share that in there. So it's based around the music. So that's I think that's an interesting thing, finding people that share an interest with you.
See, I think that's wonderful because I'm totally about music. I mean, I have a soundtrack in my head constantly, 24/7. So if I can find people that like the kind of music I like, that to me would be like the number one thing that I would look for.
I'm clarifying it now. I haven't checked it out, so I do know. I read about it.
Well, let's sign up, right?
It's legit, and it's got an app in the iStore. So
we'll sign up and see if we're compatible. Okay, Scotty.
Okay. Well, before there were these dating services, before there was social media, before there was the internet, there was broadcast television. And in preparing for this, I just happened to run across a Brill Cream commercial, and I'm going to share the video, not the audio, because I don't know how legal the audio is. But this is a 19, probably early 60s, black and white. So he's going to find love because his hair was bad, but now look at this.
Wow,
and now,
man.
There you go.
That's all it took.
They still sell that stuff too.
A little grease in your hair. Who remembers the theme song or that song? Brill cream, a little dab will do ya. Brill cream, we shine to your hair. Good Lord.
So anyway, there'll be a link in the comment stream, and everyone can actually see the show itself.
That's so funny. God, talk about feeling old.
There'll be
Okay.
a copyright strike for you singing the song.
I was less than 6 seconds, I think so. That's what we should do. Anyway, thanks everybody. I really appreciate that. I'm going to bring up something that Vivek's holding. James Harper. I'm a teen. Oh, welcome. My generation seems to be slowly drifting towards meeting people online. Several people I know older than me in their 20s and 30s, oh my Lord, already are meeting people. That's Jessica. Thank you for that. So thank you, everybody. I really appreciate that. And next week we're going to have episode 67. So until next week, have a great week and a great weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.